The Net Promoter Score is a key performance indicator or KPI measure that has gained traction by forward-thinking marketers. I've had a few students who have worked as retail managers and have shared with me the application of this KPI called Net Promoter Score that their employers took very seriously. So it is very important to at least understand what it is as a measure of performance. I also used the Net Promoter Score in a research marketing study I conducted for a major hospital, in which I added this Net Promoter Score question to see the level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction the population around this major hospital and the relationship they had with the population in this city and how they related to the services, and specifically a unit within the hospital that had called for this research. When I presented their key executives the report, they were very positive, so it made them very happy. This is an excellent measure to track over time and to keep it on the positive side. After you finish this video lesson, you will be able to recognize a Net Promoter Score and its application. You're going to understand the media terminology associated with Net Promoter Scores. You're going to understand the concept of working with a Net Promoter Score. You're going to understand how to calculate a Net Promoter Score. And you're going to assess the inclusion of a Net Promoter Score as a KPI on which to build and maintain a good reputation. So let's start with the basic terminology that you need to understand. Net Promoter Score, or NPS, the acronym, is a calculated number used nowadays by many companies as a customer feedback tool. The calculated number or score is an unambiguous number that is very easy to understand for all the employees, and also it serves as a useful input for managers to assess if their customers are satisfied and whether adjustments need to be made based on this score. The NPS also gives a good indication of growth potential and customer loyalty for a company or a product. The promoters, again, we're going to see the different designations, but the promoters, in this case, of Net Promoter Score is a designation given to customers or a company that has answered with a score of 9 to 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 to a survey question, which is, how likely are you to recommend company X to a friend or a colleague? The promoters are loyal enthusiasts who will keep buying and refer others, so this fuels growth. Then the second bucket are the passives. This is a designation given to customers or a company that have answered with a score of 7 to 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 to the survey question, how likely are you to recommend company X to a friend or colleague? Passives are satisfied but basically unenthusiastic customers who are vulnerable to competitive offerings. Now, the third buckets are the detractors, and this is a designation given to the customers or a company that have answered with a score of 0 to 6 on a scale of 0 to 10. By the way, it's not 1 to 10, 0 to 10. To the survey question, how likely are you to recommend company X to a friend or colleague? The detractors are unhappy customers who can damage your brand and impede growth through negative word of mouth. The key performance indicator, or KPI, is a campaign or marketing effort performance measurement. As an organization may use KPIs to evaluate its overall success or to evaluate the success of a particular activity in which they're engaged. NPS, or Net Promoter Score, is a KPI or key performance indicators. There are other types of KPIs and their measures such as ratings and impressions delivered versus the goal, email open rates, direct mail response rates, click-through rates. These are examples of KPIs. Effectiveness. Why should we even care? Let me give you a few reasons if you don't know by now. It's how we get paid to build business and shareholder value. It builds clients' confidence and retains clients, meaning effectiveness. Effectiveness is how we maintain and build budgets. Effectiveness is why we're in business to begin with. The Net Promoter Score, or NPS, by the way, this is a registered trademark, is based on the fundamental perspective that every company's customers can be divided again in three categories or three buckets: promoters, passives, and detractors. And it is basically asking, as I was saying, this one simple question: how likely are you to recommend company X to a friend? A company can get a clear and simple measure of performance through their customer's perspective. The answer to this one question, again, one question survey, is to respond between 0 and 10 point on that rating scale. And again, they're categorized in three categories, however you answer the question. The promoters, they answered 9 to 10. And these are considered the jewel of the crown. A company wants as many promoters as possible because they fuel their growth. The middle ground are the passives, and they score that question on a 7 and 8. While this group may be satisfied, they're still vulnerable to the competition. This group goes wherever the wind takes them, but they could be easily converted. The worst group to have are the detractors because they score the answer to that question 0 to 6, anywhere in between. These people can cause reputation damage to a company. The most important thing the most important thing here is to understand why they're so negative and to get to the bottom of the problem so improvements can be made. Is it the service? Is it the salespeople, the product itself? More research obviously will be necessary to dig a little deeper on the real reasons of unhappiness. There's a case study of a campaign for a major pizza company, and the TV commercial showed a focus group with real people talking about their pizza. The real research discovered that participants were not happy with this company's pizza, but that fueled major development on the product or the pizza itself. Unhappy customers and negative word of mouth are certainly a lethal combination for any business. A forward-thinking company will always keep an open mind to constructive criticism, and the NPS survey can be directional in assessing if this is the case. One of the wealthiest men in the world, media mogul Warren Buffett, once said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation and only 5 minutes to ruin it." If you think about that, you'll do things differently. It cannot be more clear than that. As consumers, we really wish more companies would take this challenge seriously, right? Those who do win with customers, build brand loyalty. Think about Apple. Besides being a good product, their stores are unparalleled in how they treat and educate consumers patiently. It is in the company's DNA. So next time Apple dreams up of their next generation or iteration of anything, their brand loyalists are probably more open to at least investigate before they buy anything else. By the way, I encourage you to look for a TED Talks video on YouTube by Simon Sinek titled "How Great Leaders Inspire Action." And it talks about the culture of great companies. And it's good and fascinating for food for thought. Okay, so let's talk more about the Net Promoter Score. This Net Promoter Score was developed by a guy by the name of Fred Richfield of management consulting firm called Bain & Company and Satmetrics. And it was introduced by a 2002 Harvard Business Review article titled "One Number You Need to Know to Grow." Overall, the NPS can be as low as -100, where everyone is a detractor, or as high as plus 100, where everyone is a promoter. A positive NPS or higher than 0 is considered good, and an NPS of plus 50 is excellent. This metric is not without criticism because of its alarming simplicity in predicting success or failure, growth or stagnations for company. But it remains a good directional metric or performance that could be met with curiosity of a company's management to get to the bottom line of the reasons why their customers feel a certain way. So let's start. So refer to the chart. Let's understand the numbers. So let's say that this company decided to track their customer satisfaction and establish a net promoter score that they can track over time. They ran a one-question survey. How likely are you to recommend? And 50 people responded and completed. So let's write here. Okay? So once they completed to take the survey, how likely are you to recommend this company to a friend or a colleague? 50 people completed the survey, and the results were as follows. Okay? Let's say that 22 people answered with a 9 and 10 score. So these are your promoters. 11 people answered with a 7 and 8 score. For your scores. And these are number of people, okay? And 17 people answered with a score of 0 to 6. So these are your detractors. So let's go to the next slide. So this is, your numbers. So now for the next step, let's calculate the Net Promoter Score. Now the formula for calculating a Net Promoter Score is very simple. You take the total number of surveys filled as the base and divide each category's total entries by this base and then multiply it times 100. So if in this case, let's say it's 22, is 22 divided by 50 times 100. So the Net Promoter Score for your promoters is 44%. So now let's take the passives. The passives were 11 divided by 100 divided by 50 times 100. So the Net Promoter Score for the passives is 22%. The last one is the detractors. So you had 17 detractors divided by 50 times 100. Your detractors are 34%. So now, very, very simple. You take the promoters, in this case, which is 44, so promoters, and you subtract it from the detractors, which is 34. So in this case, 44 minus 34 is positive 10. So the Net Promoter Score is plus 10. So now let's look at what do you do with this, right? So reporting the results. So in a survey, and now I'm just basically, if you're in a meeting and you're reporting this and you had, this one KPI and you're reporting it, this is the way that you would do it. In a survey conducted among 50 people to establish a Net Promoter Score, the results were divided as follows. 44% of the customers can be categorized as promoters of the brand. 22% as passives, and 34% as detractors of the brand. While we would like to further research why this 34% of the total customer sample are unhappy with the brand, the Net Promoter Score is a positive 10%, meaning that there are more promoters than detractors for this brand. From these results, the company will then start tracking changes and make improvements where they're needed. As a last comment on this KPI metric, according to Richfield, the average American company scores less than a plus 10 on the NPS, while the highest performing organizations are situated between plus 50 and plus 80. These values may, however, vary considerably from sector to sector, from culture to culture. To understand the motives of promoters and detractors, it is recommended to accompany the NPS question by one or more open-ended questions that probe into the underlying reasons given the score. This allows you to make the appropriate adjustments to increase the future NPA, either by boosting the percentage of promoters or by reducing the proportion of passives and detractors. Or better yet, a combination of both. Always remember that metrics are key in the evaluation of campaigns, and clients demand them. Always go by, if you can measure it, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. And even further, you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. So knowing where you stand is the foundation of solid and sustained growth. And with that, I'll see you in the next video lesson.